Hi, and welcome to the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection. I am your host, Eric Knowles. But before we get started, a word from one of our supporters.
Miami-Dade College has career paths in anything you want to be. What's your story? Be global. Be cutting edge. Be inventive. Be investigative. Be a hero. What do you want to be? Be the best. Be you. Be MDC.
Welcome back to the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. I am your host, Eric Knowles. And, the Chamber, you know what we do. We provide and we organize and we help businesses grow. Our mission is to provide economic and social transformation in our community. We do that each and every day. We provide technical assistance. You don't have to be a member of the Chamber to get that technical assistance. So just reach out to us. You can reach us at 305-751-8648 or go to m-dcc.org to learn more about the Chamber. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about our guest today because she's coming to talk about an institution that has been in our community for a long time. It actually went away for a minute, but it's back. Miss Kendra, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing
Good.
great. Great to see you.
Thank you.
I'm going to let you tell them, but I want them to know a little bit about you first before we get into that institution that I was talking about.
Okay. Well, I am Kendra Bulluck. I have the pleasure of serving as the executive director of the Orange Blossom Classic. But greater than that, I am the mother of two amazing boys. And I am, I guess, what you would call a serial entrepreneur.
Okay.
Yes. So I have a couple of other businesses.
Let's talk about this. This is a chamber. See, I didn't know that.
Okay. Yes. So I actually have a property and casualty insurance agency.
Okay.
That specializes in homeowners and commercial insurance.
Okay.
And I also have a program that serves after school and summer programs for youth.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my good friends, Mr. Don Brown, would say you have to have more than one popcorn stand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Especially in this economic climate.
Oh, tell me about it. So the Orange Blossom Classic.
Mm-hmm.
I remember growing up, I'm a Miami boy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Florida boy, born in Fort Pierce, but grew up in Miami.
Okay.
And also outside of Buffalo, New York, but Miami, yeah, exactly. It's about cold as this room right now,
Yeah.
right? But I grew up on 52nd and 15th and also 53rd and 5th.
Mm-hmm.
So right off of 7th Avenue.
The OBC parade, right?
Where the parade took
Yes.
place, and FAM came down and the other schools and the high schools, whether it was Northwestern or Edison or Carroll City, et cetera, would, have that thing going on.
Yes.
The bands playing on 7th Avenue when we had businesses thriving.
Yes.
You're talking about being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And it was here. Talk about the history of the Classic.
The history of the Classic is what intrigued me to revive it. I'm originally from North Carolina.
Okay.
And so I grew up with all of my family attending HBCUs. And I
Okay.
always tell people in North Carolina, basketball, of course, is big. But
Right.
when you talked about football, you talked about HBCUs. When you talk about basketball, you talk about UNC, you talk about Duke and all
Right,
of that.
right.
But when it came to football, it was about classics. Whether it be, my mom graduated from Shaw University, my sister graduated from North Carolina Central University. And so that's what I grew up with.
Right.
And when we relocated to Florida, my dad being, huge FAMU and Marching 100 fan, I would always hear about the Orange Blossom Classic. And there really was nothing here like that anymore. We have Florida Memorial, of course.
Right.
It was our only HBCU here in South Florida. But at the time, they didn't have football.
Right.
And so that element was missing. And just me, again, being in the education industry with the after school programs, summer programs, I would hear kids say, well, if I don't get this football scholarship to go to the University of Miami or go to Florida State, and it's like, well, what about other options?
Right.
And I just started doing the research, looking at the history of it. As you mentioned, talking to different people, and they talked about the parade and how important it was. And, during that time for us to celebrate ourselves.
Right.
And, you have back then in the late 60s, early 70s, you have, doctors and lawyers and people who were educated, but really didn't have an opportunity to step out into mainstream and really celebrate themselves.
Right.
And that's what the Classic was about. And so from there, I just became intrigued about the history and started, working with some of our stakeholders down here to revive it.
And again, I think back about then, like you said, the 60s, growing up in the 60s and in the 70s and the Classic. But the one thing that you spoke about, I didn't grow up in a family. I didn't know what HBCU was when I was growing up. And so to hear you talk about, your mother went to Shaw and my friends that have had that experience, I went to military after high school and came back and actually came to this institution, Miami-Dade College,
Oh, wow.
and went to FIU. But one thing that I do see is that connection with the individuals, obviously, who have gone to HBCUs. I've been blessed that my baby girl, my daughter Catherine, she graduated from FAM.
Oh.
So I do have that vicariously connection now.
Yes, I have one at FAM right now on the Hill. Yeah, sure do.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Again, what makes it even, I guess, even more exciting is the fact that now the game is played in Miami Gardens at Hard Rock.
Yes, yes.
Talk about that a little bit and that relationship with the city.
So the city is amazing. When we started this process, it was probably around 2010. And I believe Commissioner Gilbert at the time was the mayor. He was actually commissioner in Miami Gardens.
Right, at that time.
And of course, FAMU grad. So he was the first person that I went to. And we talked about, different locations at the time. The Marlins had just, gone into their stadium. And of course, that was the original site of the Orange Blossom Classic. And so we talked about the possibility of doing it there. And then it was, well, what if we are able to get these kids into an NFL stadium? As you know, some of our HBCU student athletes may not ever have an opportunity to play in an NFL stadium.
Right.
And so the city embraced it. Of course, we went immediately to Miami Dolphins group, talked to them about it and said, listen, this is something that is big for the community. It's new, it's different. And we just went to work to make it happen. So now, to see our student athletes be in an NFL stadium. And when we brought the game back, originally it was supposed to be in 2020, but of course, COVID had other plans.
Right. Yeah.
And so we actually kicked off in 2021.
Right.
And the significance of that was we kicked off, of course, post-pandemic, when, if everybody was saying we're back outside. And then we kicked it off at a time where it was the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. We were just coming off of the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and it was a lot going on in the country. And so that was also the time, the first 3 years of the game, we had Jackson State.
Right.
And coincidentally, we always had Jackson State in the game, and people immediately say, oh my gosh, they probably went and got Jackson State because of Deion. But it was the exact opposite.
Right.
We chose Jackson State because Jackson State had a huge following. And so I got a call one day from the athletic director, and he says, hey, I'm about to make this move. I think Deion's going to be our next head coach. I'm like, yeah, right. Call me when that really happens, right? And it happened. And at that time, when Deion came on board, his conversation was, bring your talents to HBCUs.
Right.
And so the timing of reviving something with such a historical relevance that, like I said, was an opportunity for us to celebrate ourselves. The timing was just so relevant. It was important. That very first year, we actually had the families of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor who participated in the parade. They were there for the game. And the timing was perfect.
Right.
So to do that at Hard Rock, it was kind of surreal.
We're going to be right back. We're going to have to take a little break, get a word from one of our supporters, but we're going to continue this great conversation.
Thank you.
Learn and earn today at Miami-Dade College. College graduates earn 56% more than high school graduates and $1 million more in lifetime earnings. A degree from MDC is your path to greater earning power and career success. Choose from hundreds of affordable high-tech and in-demand career programs, including cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, business, and nursing. Learn and earn today at MDC and fast-track your career. Enroll now at mdc.edu/purpose.
Welcome back to the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection. I'm here with Miss Kendra Bulluck talking about the Orange Blossom Classic, something that I remember as a 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grader, living off of 7th Avenue and seeing FAMU march and seeing Bethune march, seeing those colleges and our high schools march down 7th Avenue, the drum major stepping high, and we're back to that. In Miami Gardens. I know you were talking about, before we took a break, the fact that when you were coming back, bringing the classic back, it was during some very tumultuous times, the murder of George Floyd, so on and so forth. And you had a lot of companies coming out to support our community. Here we are in 2025, and the temperature is changing quite a bit in terms of, well, you know, these companies came out with DEI, supporting DEI, and et cetera, et cetera. Has that affected any of your movement?
Yes and no. So you're absolutely right. When we started this, companies were jumping on board left and right because they wanted to send that message that they were supporting the efforts, and of course, you know, understanding the buying power of, you know, so they were 100% on board. I have seen some decline, and that of course has come about because, as you mentioned, DEI is now
Taboo,
right?
Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah, you know, but the companies, we have, I would say 80% who have remained on board. You know, of course, it's no longer titled DE&I,
Right.
but it's still some form of support. And those are the ones that have said, no, you know, we're here. And you always want to have that conversation. You know, I don't have a problem calling people to the carpet. You know,
you have to.
right. So I will say, right. So do you really want to be that company that pulls away from this just because, you know, you can, right?
Right.
And they have been supportive. I'd say about 80% of our companies have remained. And they, again, like I said, it's titled something differently. The funding may have shifted from one pot to another, but they're still very supportive. And what we do in exchange for that is not only do we provide them with a really good platform to showcase their brand, the fact that this game is televised on ESPN gives it a very national presence. And so they have the opportunity to be able to get their message across on a national platform. And also, we give them the opportunity internally. So Denny's, for example, was our title partner.
Right.
And so we really understand the importance of making sure that the return on their investment is met. So we do a lot to push those conversations to say, hey, go to Denny's and support them. We want to see you not just, you know, tag Denny's in a social media post, but we want to actually see you in Denny's, you know, like enjoying. And so we really do a good job with getting them to make, you know, just ensuring that in some way, shape, or form, if they're supporting us, we're supporting them.
But it's a good point that you bring up, and it makes me go to, as the executive director of the Orange Blossom Classic, you know, what is the day-to-day like for you? Because there's a lot of moving parts.
It is. You know, so we have a software program, of course, that we use for project management in the office. And my title in the software program is the head dishwasher.
So I'm the head bottle washer, so I get it. Yeah.
So, you know, it's like I just clean up stuff. That's what it is. Like by the time it gets to me, we just clean it up.
Right.
But the day-to-day is having those conversations, you know, talking to sponsors, talking to partners, doing things to help drive ticket sales, making sure that the staff is doing what we need to do in order to get out in the community and let people know that the Orange Blossom Classic is back. Educating people on what the Orange Blossom Classic really means for those who, you know, don't know the history of it, you know, explaining to them that it's bigger than just a football game. So day to day is we start as soon as one game ends, we're back
Absolutely.
to preparing, because as you know, it's not just the game. We have a lot of ancillary events around the game. And so, I oversee our events team, I oversee our ticketing team, I oversee our community engagement team, and that's what it is every day,
Right.
every day.
What would you say, putting an event together like this, what would be your biggest challenges?
Whew. So the biggest challenge I would say is partners. Just securing funding and making sure that those partners stay on board. After that, I'd probably say finding the right people. We're a very small group. It is
Okay.
actually 6 of us internally. And then, of course, we have, I have my subcontractors, so to speak. But for the most part, one thing I say to my staff all the time: when you come on board, you may come in with one thing on your resume, but when you leave, you will have a plethora of
Right,
things, because
right.
there is no such thing as, well, this is just my job, because we're so smart. I mean, I'm sorry, because we're, so small.
But smart
And they're
too.
smart, right, and they're smart. They probably program that in me. But it's everybody is cross training.
Absolutely.
Everyone is in everyone's department, and we make it happen. We make it
Well,
happen.
I come from the school of, especially in today's employee market.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm going somewhere, but
Mm-hmm.
I come from the school of, everybody wants to be the executive director.
Right.
Everybody wants to be the head bottle washer, right?
Until they
And
have to wash the bottles. Right.
Until they have to wash,
Right.
because they really don't know what it means to have to wash those
Exactly.
bottles.
That is so true.
And that's, to me, it's the process
Mhm.
of understanding that you got to mop the floor,
Mhm.
you got to wash the bottles, you got to do those things in
Mhm.
order to be the head bottle washer.
That's right.
And I mean, explain, like you said, you're a small unit of 6 people. I'm sure they're
Mhm.
younger folks.
Mhm.
Talk about that. How does that dynamic come into place?
You know, um, I am a firm believer in getting people who understand the vision,
Mhm.
because you can pay someone a salary and they can do a job, but I would rather take a person who may not have the same level of experience as someone else, but who is more caught up and bought into the vision,
Mhm.
and getting them to understand that we are small, but what we're doing is major. And to be a part of something like this, you're literally a part of something that is historical. And so I'm a firm believer in getting those type of people who are eager and who are excited. Occasionally you do have people who, like you said, they think that they want to sit in the chair and then don't really realize that when you have a problem, you get to pass it off to me.
Mhm.
And so, you have to kind of navigate through those spaces and understand that people like that will exist.
Right.
But for the most part, I've been fortunate to have people who are happy in their space, who want to learn, who want to grow, and who want to learn and grow and give those things back to the company. Because a lot of times, as I'm sure you know, in leadership positions, people will want to learn and grow, and then they take that learning and that training and move on, and
Right.
that's perfectly
Yeah,
okay. It
absolutely.
happens. Like one of my leadership principles, one of my favorite scriptures is, you're known by your fruit. So if I'm constantly
Growing
teaching
and
you and
developing.
you're growing and developing, then yeah, you are supposed to go out and be able to take those skill sets on to bigger and better things. If not, then that's questionable for me as a leader.
Right.
But constantly, because we can't skip a beat, so you're constantly bringing in that next person, because you can kind of sense when it happens,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
you're constantly bringing in that next person.
In the little bit of time that we have left, scholarships. And
Mhm.
obviously, I know this is a big part of what you're doing.
Mhm.
Talk about that a little bit.
So our scholarship program is geared towards South Florida students who either have, we look for kids who are well-rounded. So there are so many scholarships available to students who have the 4.2s and the 4.5 GPAs. We will accept a scholarship applicant with a 2.5 GPA as long as they're involved in other activities.
Mhm.
So whether it be a student athlete or,
That would have been
SGA
me
or
somewhere around it.
right.
Anyway, go ahead.
It's the reason why that's near to my heart too. So, like, well, I didn't quite have this, but I'm very
Yeah.
well rounded, right?
Right.
So we look for those kids and we give priority to students who are attending the institutions that are participating in the game. And then they trickle down from there from other institutions. And with our companies, not only do they have their pot of money for sponsorship, but we also reach out to those foundations to contribute to our scholarship fund.
Great.
Mhm.
How can someone get in touch with you?
OrangeBlossomClassic.com. All of our information, of course, is on our website. And then from travel, tickets, you name it, it's there. And of course, they can always email info@orangeblossomclassic.com.
Well, this has been great. If you want to know more about it, reach out. She just told you how to do that. Tell them again.
OrangeBlossomClassic.com or info@orangeblossomclassic.com.
If you want to know more about the Chamber, you can reach us at 305-751-8648 or m-dcc.org. This has been the Miami-Dade Chamber Member Connection. Thank you for tuning in. Today, I stand before you, a proud graduate of Miami-Dade College and the 5th president of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. I'm honored to return to the college that prepared me to become a leader in our community, providing an education second to none. So I'm asking you to please tune in every Monday at 12 noon to the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce's Member Connection, as I interview members of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce on our Facebook page at Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce or our YouTube channel, Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. To learn more about the Chamber, please go to m-dcc.org or call the Chamber at 305-751-8648.